Hey everybody, I'm Natasha Kirchak, and thanks for joining us for ILTV's Israeli Frenemies, where every week Uri Zaki from the political left and Ari Fuld from the political right enter an in-depth discussion and a lively debate of current events in the Israeli political sphere. Today we have a special edition of the show where we recapture the finest moments and commentary. We've selected a few interesting debates you won't want to miss, so let's hear the best of Israeli Frenemies.
Welcome to Israeli Frenemies right here on ILTV, broadcast right out of Tel Aviv. We get the right and left together to bash it up about the most heated subjects of the week. And here with my co-host, my frenemy, my friend, Uri Zaki.
Love you, man. Love you.
How you doing? How's your week?
I'm good. It was good. We had a holiday this week, so it's always good. And it's funny to come back after 2 days. But it's good,
Absolutely. Well, let's get right to it. We got a lot of hot topics to talk about. Let's get right to it.
Let's do it. So Ari, I was wondering whether you're holding your breath because on the time we're shooting this program, Donald Trump has to sign a waiver.
Doesn't have to. He has to decide.
Well, if he wants to prevent the American embassy to move from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem because of the congressional legislation from 1995, he has to sign the decree today. So far, we don't know about him signing it.
He doesn't have to sign the decree. If he signs the decree, then it doesn't move.
Right.
He doesn't have to sign anything. If he doesn't
sign anything, then tomorrow, the embassy, the process of moving the embassy will have to start, according to American legislation, which was each president since, I believe it was Bill Clinton, including Bush, Obama, always signed every half a year a waiver.
So I'm not holding my breath, but I'll say the following. Look, the move of the embassy to Jerusalem, I hope he does it. Am I holding my breath? No, because I'm not holding my breath for any American president. But the bigger problem is the reason it should be moved is because Jerusalem, according to I think both of us, is the capital of the state of Israel. And according to American law, the embassy should be in the capital. Whether Trump does it or not, I'll be very happy if he does, and I'll be very disappointed if he doesn't. But I want to turn internal a little bit. In other words, the fact that we're not really demanding it, to me that bothers me. The fact, for example, this morning, there were 7 Jews who were arrested for praying on the Temple Mount. That bothers me. More than Trump moving the embassy to Jerusalem or not, I think that we have to turn inside first. In other words, we have to demand of ourselves to really treat Jerusalem as a capital city. There's dangers and we have enemies, but again, to have Jews arrested for praying on our holiest spot, anywhere else in the world that would happen, that would be called anti-Semitism. And I'm not calling that.
Let's not go there. There are reasons. Look, Ari, I also think that eventually, not only the U.S. Embassy, but all embassies should be in Jerusalem, as you say, in West Jerusalem. It's our capital.
Well,
I believe
that
I think it's not surprising that even this most unexpected president, who makes a big deal of his election promises, is not rushing to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Jerusalem is at the heart of the conflict. Moving the embassy right now, again, I'm all for it, but moving the embassy right now would necessarily create a lot of turmoil within the Arab world and specifically with the Palestinians. On the other hand, if we will go to a negotiation with the Palestinians, which Donald Trump is obligated to, according to what he's talking. Well, he says he obligated himself, right? It's one of his most common statements, both before and after the elections, something that is not typical for him, kind of stability that is lacking his presidency. I believe that we can have, for the first time, not only the U.S. and not only Congress passing legislation, but all countries that we're in diplomatic ties right now, and not only them. Also, I believe that post a peace treaty with the Palestinians, we will see a Saudi embassy in West Jerusalem. We'll see Iraqi embassy in
right, so
Jerusalem,
let me just
and I
listen.
believe it's in our best interest to promote that, and we can make really Jerusalem the city of peace.
Okay, so let's just bring it down a level from fantasy a little bit. First of all, East and West Jerusalem, just so you understand the terminology, that was created when Jordan was ruling Jerusalem, and it was an apartheid word. In other words, Jews were prohibited from going to the old city. That's when East Jerusalem was created.
Let me finish
the sentence. Jordan created that when they put a wall up in Jerusalem. To say that that is a solution for peace, that bringing back that wall and splitting up...
No, God forbid.
Even calling it East Jerusalem, you're bringing back terminology from when the Jordanian Arabs had control and would not give freedom to Jews. I don't believe in that terminology at all, number one. Number two, I don't think Jerusalem is the core of the issue at all, because the Palestinians, the Arabs, the Muslims, whatever word you want to use, it was never an Arab capital. It was never Islamic holy city.
We're going back to
the
debate.
I just want to
viewers,
hold on.
I think,
Uri, one second. Let me just finish my sentence. Again, listen to me.
You can't say it's not holy for the Muslims.
Let me finish
you just can't say that.
Let me finish my sentence for a second. I'm not saying it. I will be happy, like I said before, anything that I say to raise a Palestinian flag if you can show me at any point in time in history that
Look,
Jerusalem.
When I showed you facts of how mistreated the Palestinian residents of Jerusalem under Israeli control, you said it's fake news.
We're talking about right now, again. Next week, Israel will be celebrating, well, some of us at least, will be celebrating the reunification of Jerusalem, Judea and Samaria to the Jewish nation. Now, I want to just clarify that, hold on, let me just explain to the viewers what we're seeing. In 1967, after Egypt called for the annihilation of Israel and moved their troops up to the border and kicked out the UN peacekeeping corps, Israel preempted a strike because we weren't really willing to go, like sheep to the gas chambers again. And then Jordan, came to the war in Syria. Now, the rest of the Arab nations came to the war. And in 6 days, Israel miraculously really took out 6 different Arab nations who were looking to annihilate Israel. And after the 6-day war, we liberated Jerusalem. What does liberated mean? Between 48 and 67, the Arabs had control of Jerusalem. Jews could not even go into the Western Wall. Forget about the Temple Mount. Anybody who stuck their head over the wall that separated Jerusalem was shot by a Jordanian sniper. The Jordanians used Jewish gravestones as their latrine and their bases. Horrific stuff. 1967, we liberated Jerusalem, and there's freedom of religion in Jerusalem. We also liberated Judea and Samaria. For the first time, Jews were able to go to the Cave of the Patriarchs, for example. The cave of where Joseph is buried, we can finally go to, well, almost, because they're shooting at us every time we do. And next we're going to be celebrating that. Unfortunately, the left side of the political spectrum, instead of saying 50 years of reunification, is saying 50 years of occupation.
That's true.
I guess you'll explain that.
I'll definitely explain that. First of all, regarding Jerusalem, the state this week released from the archives the transcript of the government, the cabinet meetings in June '67, where they discuss the possibilities. What was striking there is while the leaders of the Labour Party, which was then in power, were euphoric after the first victories and wanted to annex and all that, it was the leader of the Zionist Religious Party, who's now the same guy who's Bennett now is in his position, the Jewish Home, then was the strongest opposer to the annexation of East Jerusalem, mainly because of the Palestinians that live there. And he understood, he had the foresight to understand that this would cause a lot of problems vis-a-vis the world. He actually suggested to internationalize the old city and to make it into, which was the original UN plan, which was perhaps we would have done it then, would have been much less of a problem now.
Peace the
reason we're not celebrating this day of unification is that because we understand that since this false unification, whoever goes to Jerusalem knows that the Palestinian villages and neighborhoods that were annexed to Jerusalem, they were never a part of Jerusalem, but under the Israeli annexation, they became part of Jerusalem. First of all, there's no unification there. There's a lot of...
There's only one
hold on.
There's no unification. If a Jew drives through the area, they get pummeled by stones.
Palestinians there
have freedom of travel,
treated very badly by the government.
It's not.
Oh, come on, that's facts.
Arabs,
first of all, there. Hold on, let me finish.
Residents of Jerusalem, and they refuse.
They are not getting the same funds as the Jews there. There's poverty there.
Bring numbers.
There's no. Excuse me?
Bring numbers.
Do you have numbers?
No, so don't make claims. Don't make claims.
Those claims are I promise you the next.
Don't promise.
Next show we'll show you.
Next show. The Arabs in Jerusalem are residents of Jerusalem.
There are less funds. It's a well-known fact. Even right-wingers say that.
Let's get
second, the fact that we control what will soon be a majority of Palestinians under our direct control means the end of the Zionist vision.
Let's get some facts. Let's get some facts.
Apart from apartheid, you don't have any other solution to this fact that there is a majority of non-Jews living under these ways of the democracy, and they don't get the right to vote.
You done? Number one, the Arabs in Jerusalem, residents of Jerusalem, they refuse Palestinian citizenship. So please stop.
Come on, they refuse.
They refuse.
They don't refuse.
Let me finish.
Stop.
Uri.
They had a full chance.
You spoke
in 67.
for 3 minutes. Let me speak. They refuse. They're residents of Jerusalem right now. They have freedom of travel. They have freedom of religion everywhere in Jerusalem. The only people who don't have freedom of religion are the Jews, where they're not allowed to pray on the Temple Mount. Stop making up fabricated stories about the Arabs. They have freedom all over Jerusalem. They ride on our buses. We don't ride on their buses. We get killed.
What do you mean their buses? The Jerusalemites?
There's an Arab.
The Jerusalemites?
You don't know. You don't know.
The residents of Jerusalem.
There's an Arab bus line that goes to Jerusalem, goes to Beit Lechem, goes to all the areas. If a Jew would get on those buses, he'd be dead by the time he get off. Period. End of story.
Prove that. Show me numbers.
No problem. Let's go in.
Let's show me numbers.
Let's go tomorrow on the bus.
It's just a claim.
Let's go on the bus tomorrow.
Let's go.
You and I.
Okay.
Let's do it. In terms of driving through the Arab cities, the villages, I've been through there. I've been through Silwan, which used to be a Yemenite city, and I've gotten stoned. Why? Just because I was Jewish.
Because you're a colonist.
Hold on.
You're a colonist.
It's not even, they're living there they don't even pay the taxes to Israel. Stop it. Number one. Number two, the only non-freedom that exists is when a Jew, doesn't matter who he is, drives through that area, will get pummeled and ambushed with stones to be dead.
When the Brits were here, we resisted.
Back to what you said before. Hold on, Uri.
They don't get their freedom
back to what you said
or
before.
right to vote.
Okay,
so they rise against the conqueror.
I see. You're justifying terrorism. Okay, back to what we said before. In terms of what was said back then in the day, Ben Gurion himself, Golda Meir, left-wing leader. There is no such thing as the Palestinian people. So things might change.
You're right. You're definitely right.
Leader. So
that the leaders of the Labour Party back then were short-sighted.
Were they lying?
Short-sighted, and they didn't see what the consequence of what they do. There were very few back then.
You wanted them to create before the people.
And it was stupidity then.
So Golda Meir lied.
Stupidity now.
Golda Meir lied?
Golda Meir.
Okay, so if we're talking about the Arab-Israeli problem, Muslim-Jewish problem, or if we want to say Palestinian-Israeli problem, any way you want to define this, we got a problem. And the question is, what's the solution? So I always tell people that you cannot find a solution until you define a problem. Imagine a man walking into a hospital and saying, my arm's hurting you, and the doctor says, well, we don't know what to do, so let's cut off the arm and everything will be happy. I don't believe in that. We got to get to the basic problem, the definition. And here's where the solution begins. If you don't define the problem, you can't find the solution. If we're talking about land, and again, we'll discuss this together in a second, between 1948 and 1967, the Arabs had every inch of what they call disputed land today. Those are the years when the PLO was actually created to destroy Israel, so the problem is not land. If you're talking about Israel, in 1929, the Muslims in Hebron slaughtered the Jewish population in Hebron, so it must not be Israel either. In my humble opinion, the problem originally was Arab nationalism, and today is more of an radical Islamic problem, since all the terrorists who are killing Jews under the Palestinian claim over the last 30 years have been from that faith. Now, it's not saying that all Muslims are terrorists, God forbid. That's saying that we have a radical Islamic problem. Therefore, the solution has to be connected to that, and not to some fabricated national claim of the Palestinians or whatnot, because the murder and the terrorism was going on long before any of that happened. So that being said, my solution is very simple. Any Muslim or Arab who wants to live peacefully under Israel, as the Jewish democratic state, by the way, we say in Arabic, ahlan wa sahlan, you're welcome. There are certain ramifications and boundaries that we have to put because we want a Jewish state. And the Arabs who live under Israel, who are loyal, have a very nice life. And
hold on, but you
yes.
want to give the 2.5 million Palestinians living in the West Bank
it's a good question.
the right to vote in Israel?
Good. My answer is the following. Those Arabs were given Jordanian citizenship in 1948. When Jordan occupied Judea and Samaria, they gave all Arabs living there Jordanian citizenship. By international law, once a refugee receives citizenship of a third country, he's no longer considered a refugee. The fact that Jordan stripped them of their nationality in 1967 is horrible. They should be given Jordanian citizenship and be residents of Israel with full human rights, everything from education
Did you ask
to health.
the Jordanians
Well,
whether they're
you didn't really
okay
ask,
with that?
but you didn't ask the Jews living in Judea and Samaria if you want to kick them out of their homes. You're okay with doing that?
But they're citizens of my country, not the citizens of any other country.
But they occupied that area. No, it was the Hashemite kingdom. The Hashemite kingdom.
we had peace
Hold
with
on. No, I'm
Jordan
not
since.
talking about Israel. I'm talking about justice. You're a man of justice,
But
right? There's one thing that I respect you of, and I do. You're a man of justice.
I appreciate what you say.
So, Jordan.
And I hope that
of course I am. But we don't respect. I respect you, and for that,
we have different
absolutely.
understandings.
I hold you up on that pedestal. I know that the left is not coming. Most of them, I really do. It's not coming from a bad place. They're coming from human rights. I believe that. The Hashemite kingdom came in and occupied an area that's 70+% of what was British Palestine. Today, that occupation in Jordan is over 74% Arabs who define themselves Palestinians. That's where Palestine should be. Now, whether they agree with it or not was never a matter of justice. In other words, I don't agree.
So just let me understand. Yeah. Your solution is Jordan is Palestine.
My solution is one of two. Either historically or in terms of justice, that should be Palestine. They have the majority of, they have the majority of Arabs consider themselves Palestinians. They occupy the majority of British Palestine. But even if they don't become Palestine, at least Jordan should give the Arabs in the West Bank Jordanian citizenship and let them be residents of Israel on two conditions. Number one, they accept the fact that it's a Jewish country. And number two, they don't fight Israel. They don't have any plans with a fabricated national claim to take over Israel.
Okay,
That's my solution.
All right. I think that your solution is just not feasible.
That's not an answer.
And immoral.
And immoral? How is it immoral?
Because you want people who live under your sovereignty to be citizens. You want to make them citizens of another country.
No.
It just doesn't make any sense.
They were citizens. They were stripped of their citizenship. The people who stripped them of their citizenship give them citizenship back.
Perhaps according to your logic, then the same way as Jordan gave them full citizenship and full rights, Israel now, since they're living under Israel for the last 50 years, should give them citizenship as well.
No, they're not.
And I'll tell you what my...
They're not. They're not living in Israel. Not even the Arabs in Jerusalem. The Arabs in Jerusalem have...
They live exactly in the area where you live.
Here's my proof.
Where you get all the Israeli rights, and they're not getting
They're not
anything.
Israelis. Here's the proof, by the way.
But hold on, I want to elaborate on my...
The Arabs in Jerusalem, they have Jordanian passports. And one of the reasons that they're scared to become citizens, by the way, is because Jordan will strip them as well.
And okay, we can talk about Jerusalem.
No, I'm just saying.
Jerusalemites.
It's Jordan.
It was reported.
Jordan built the refugee camps, not Israel.
I want to have also my
Go right ahead.
to this. My observation on what's going on vis-a-vis the Palestinians is not the Palestinians what they need, but what Israel needs. The Zionist vision, the Zionist notion, the Zionist movement, since it was created, was about two pillars. The first pillar is that Israel is the Jewish homeland. The second pillar, from Herzl, Jabotinsky, Ben-Gurion, Begin, and Rabin, was that this Jewish homeland, when it becomes a state, it will be a democratic state. Now, you are in control, full control, of the lives of 2.5 million Palestinians in the West Bank.
Incorrect, Uri. The PA is in charge, not me.
The PA is an administrative body, doesn't have any sovereignty. Okay.
All civil control.
But the de facto sovereign there, the belligerent occupier, is Israel.
IDF doesn't go into Bethlehem. IDF doesn't leave Bethlehem.
It does.
Not true.
By the way, it does.
Only when they have to distract terrorists.
It does. They do it a lot.
Hold on. Trump went into Bethlehem.
Hold on.
Trump went into
But it
Bethlehem.
can.
Who was in charge of the security?
I won't distract.
So this week, Israel had a very special visit. In fact, the whole Middle East had a special visit. President Donald J. Trump traveled from Saudi Arabia, then into Israel, met with the Prime Minister of Israel, and then met with Mr. Abbas, Abu Mazen. And the echo of that trip, I think, is going to be going on for a long time. The question that remains, I think, in all our minds is, what does it mean? Where is he going from here? I think, personally, the fact that he went into the web of the Islamic regimes and pointed a finger and said, guys, you got to be involved in fighting radical Islamic terrorism. Then he went to Abbas and in his face said to him, you got to stop paying terrorists. And then he gave a very big hug to Israel. I mean, I think it was a great visit. What he's going to do in the future? You know what? I would have put my money on it.
Still to be seen. Still to be seen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, look, first of all, I agree with your analysis. It was an important visit. I think viewers who are watching us regularly know that I'm a big fan of President Obama. I thought he did a great job as the leader of the free world, but I think he did some mistakes vis-a-vis the Middle East, and not necessarily regarding policy, but regarding, how would I say it, personal warmth. And I think what Trump did, both in Saudi Arabia, with the Saudi king himself, and with the leadership of the Middle East, Middle Eastern countries and Muslim countries, and especially here in Israel, I think he reads the Israeli public better. I think for Israelis many times, and you know, some past leaders knew how to do it very well, like Anwar Sadat, the late Egyptian president, who knew exactly which buttons to push.
Well, he was serious afterwards.
He was serious, but he was also very warm. Once he decided to be here, King Hussein as well, and Bill Clinton had that very much. I mean, regardless whether you were from the right or the left.
I agree with you. 100%.
And Obama neglected this point of reaching out to the Israelis, who are very, how would I say it, sensitive to how they are treated. And I think Trump, in that manner, did the right thing. He didn't say anything, by the way.
Well, he said a lot of things. He said, I think there were three things, in my opinion, I think there were three things that he said, which to me, my jaw dropped. They really hit the floor. The first thing he said, which I think if I was a Muslim, I'd be offended. He said Jews praise their prayers in the Western Wall. The Christians pray in the Church of the Special, I think it was in the Old City. And then he said the Muslims pray in their holy sites. He would not mention Al-Aqsa. To me, it was mind-blowing. I didn't think it was good or bad. I just thought it was shocking. In other words, that's all these places. That was one. And then he said, when he talked about Jerusalem, and he said the Jews' heritage here, his quote was, is ancient and eternal. I mean, that was mind-blowing to me. That was fantastic.
But he didn't. What he didn't say. There were many talks in his campaign and on the eve of his arrival about moving the embassy. Nothing about that.
Right, absolutely, no, I understand.
He went. Right. He went to the Kotel, to the Wailing Wall on his own with no official Israeli presence. And what we hear that behind the scenes, he's now talking on issues that after, you know, making this warm reception, which will be very hard to criticize him afterwards, his people are talking now about switching areas C to areas B
it's a report.
in the West Bank for the Palestinian Authority. They are talking about renewal of the negotiations with serious talks about a two-state solution.
No mention.
That's what the background. I don't know.
Here's the thing. I want to, you know, someone who's. I told you I was pro-Trump more because the choices were not really good for me. I will be frank with you. If he goes the other way, I'll stand here and say I'm very disappointed. In fact, I'm very disappointed.
But you would not say he's anti-Semitic or pro-Muslim.
Let me finish my sentence.
Things that you used to say to on Obama.
What I'm saying about Trump is the following. I think he went, you know, further than any other president in terms of his statements, in terms of his warmth. In other words, he didn't mention a two-state solution. He didn't mention a Palestinian state by the PLO, not by us. When he's saying Abbas, he never mentioned them. Abbas was talking about the settlements, about this. He didn't mention it. He said, you got to stop paying terrorists. He went to Saudi Arabia. He didn't mention Israel at all. He said, you got, one second. And then he came to Israel.
Let me finish. Yeah, but we have a very short time.
Then he came to Israel. He didn't mention settlements. He didn't mention this. Nothing.
You're
nothing.
completely right. And I'm not, and I think neither the right nor the left at this point can rejoice on his statements. I think some
I can rejoice on his statements. I don't know what he's going to do, but I can rejoice
exactly. I think that his statements can lead to anything. And I think if he's actually going to go for a process now, I think from an objective point of view, he has a much better way to start a negotiation than his predecessor in that sense, because he's so welcomed here now. And he did some of those symbolic issues.
That wraps up this edition of Israeli Frenemies. Thanks for watching, and tune in for our next episode of Israeli Frenemies with Uri Zaki and Ari Fuld.